Hello and welcome to my introduction to Xforms for ProteanCMS. So a little bit about Xform. What is an Xform? It's a W3C standard for defining the behavior of a form. It was developed as part of the XHTML2 standard, which was a strict XML and advanced version for HTML. It was eventually abandoned in favour of the much looser current standard, HTML5. However, the standard for defining an Xform is really useful. It creates a standard file for defining advanced form behaviors, all stored in a simple XML file that can be stored on the server and loaded in as required. So, why do we use Xforms in ProteanCMS? So Protean is a flexible platform for managing content of all types. So rather than creating complex related database structures for every type of content and adding more tables for any bespoke content, ProteanCMS has a single database table that contains all the content. That makes gathering all the content for a page a single and fast database query. Okay, that content is stored in the database as XML, and the schema or structure of each content type is different. So the schema for an event or a news article or a bit of formatted text, they're all different and they're stored in different styles of XML in the same content table in the database. We define both the schema for the content and the form to update it in a single Xform file for each content type. Okay. So why is an Xform different from a form in HTML? Okay. An HTML form simply returns name value pairs. There's no inherent structure to that data and no validation rules. Xforms allow you to update a complete structured schema, and it also contains validation rules. Okay. Xforms cannot be processed in the browser. Okay, that was never built in as a standard. You need a template to render the HTML form, and then you need to accept the submitted values, validate them, and map them to the schema within the form. So ProteanCMS has its own built-in Xform parser. It will render the Xform as an HTML form, and it will take the result back from that HTML form and then run all of the rules against it and map it back into the structured data for the schema for Protean to do what it wants with. Okay, we can cut that bit out. So the anatomy of an Xform. Okay, and we're dropping now. The controls are basically all of the controls and the layout of the form itself, and the bindings are the area where we are taking the mapping the controls to areas within the instance. So we're saying this field updates this bit in the schema in the instance, and the bindings also allow you to set some validation rules. So let's have a quick look at an Xform. So we've got a project here open, and this is a standard Protean project, and the Xforms live inside the PTM folder, and for every module on the website we've got a folder here of every sort of content type that we have. So if we look, so we've got all the bigger modules here, and in the core we've got some simple ones. Okay, and we're going to have a quick look at the form for formatted text right now. Okay, so this is the Xform for formatted text. Okay, and in here you can see you've got two areas. You've got the model, and then you've got all of the controls sit outside of the model. The model contains our instance. Okay, the instance is the data that we're updating. So this data here mirrors the table in the database for the content. Okay, so you can see these are all the fields in the database in XML format, And then this is a blob of XML that we are then updating for the content. Okay. We've then got a single thing here that has some data around the submission, how we're submitting it. In Protean, we always tend to be submitting the form to the page that we're on. Therefore, that action there remains empty, and the method is always a post, because that tends to be how we do it. Okay, we can also pass through some JavaScript events here to the form. So if we want to add any other JavaScript events to the submission, we can add them here. Okay, the rest of this is bindings, and these binds map the controls that we'll see later on to areas within the within this instance here. So if we look at that, the module box there, we're in table content, XML brief, content, and then we're looking for an attribute of box for our module box, and that will go in and it will update this value here, okay, when it's saved. So let's just scroll down and then have a look at the controls. Okay, they are grouped. These are not this is not an HTML standard, this is an Xforms standard for defining a form. It's similar to HTML, but it is a bit different. We can actually embed some HTML in here if we want to. Okay, so you can see in this place we've got a little bit of HTML embedded too. Okay, so you've got groups, you've got labels within the groups, and then you've got inputs. So here is our module title, okay, and the label for it, and then there's a text area. So this is for a bit of formatted text, which is going to have a title, and it's going to have the main content, okay. And this bind here on the control is basically the name or the ID or the reference. That's what will get looked for. It will map to that, and then it knows to save that content there back into the instance. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to a form, and you can see that this is, we've got quite a lot of options on this form, but it's all in here. Now in Protean, we do have the ability to include group, chunks of XML from other locations, okay, where we're specifying a file path, and we've got one for a generic module, so it contains a bunch of generic form layout options here, and then there's an X path that allows us to zero in on the area, on this file that we want to embed here. Okay, so we do have the ability to share elements of forms within Protean. Okay, so that's the form itself. Okay, so we're quickly going to talk about how we then render that form. Okay, because that form needs to be rendered in HTML, okay, to present in the browser. So the system will load up this XML file. It will output that as part of the XML for the page, and then the page will get passed using XSLT to HTML to present to the browser. Okay, now we've got lots of XSLT templates for the various bits of the page, but as soon as we get to the start of the form, we're going to use, all of the form control templates are in this file here, which is xforms.xsl. Okay, and in here we've got a whole bunch of templates for defining a form. Okay, so this is the template for a div within an Xform. Okay, this is above this we will then look to be finding our Xform content, and we call a template for an Xform. Okay, so this is the main template that then outputs our HTML form tag. Okay, we've got a bunch of stuff here that sets up some classes for presenting that. Okay, and various attributes. So our ID comes in there, our name comes in there, the submission event comes in there if it's specified. Okay, and then with this command then goes on and applies templates for each of these different elements that we might find within an Xform. So another group, a repeat element, an input element, a secret, control, select, very similar to HTML form elements, okay? And that's using the mode of Xform. So these 10, we're looking for matching a input with an Xform, okay? We then scroll down and we've got a template for a group that is the parent of content. So yeah, and this is where it gets, we start building our HTML out for how we want to present it in Protean. Okay, so this has a group, and then within the group we then are calling the control templates again. Okay, here's another default one for a group or a repeat class. Again, we're calling all of the control templates within there before topping and tailing it within the field set HTML tag. Okay, we've got some different layouts here. This is a group that has something, a class of inline 3 columns. So we're outputting this in a slightly different format here. Okay, scrolling down, quite a few of these within Protean, lots of different layout options available. All these different groups. Then we've got hints and alerts. If we've got an error on the form, the Xform standard defines those and they get output and they'll get rendered here. So if you've got a validation error, it will embed that in, and then we've got a match here for how we start to present controls within the form. Okay, so yeah, and really there's a lot in here, but the templates are relatively simple once you get the hang of it, and it's very easy to, if you wanted to render a particular form control in a different way, give it a class and create a template to match that, and then you can output that form control in whatever way you define within the template. Okay, well, that's more or less it for now. What I haven't done is shown you an actual form yet, so let's just do that. So this is the demo of the admin system. If we go in, log in. Oh, go and log in. Here we go, and we go to edit some content, and this will be a formatted text area, and we go in and edit that. And this is the form that we looked at earlier, so with our title or name and our text area. Okay, all right, well, I think that's enough to take on board. Any questions, pop me an email, send me a link, comment on the video on YouTube, yes, there'll be more coming. Thank you. Cheers.